I went out of my comfort zone, and it changed my life forever. Warning: the following story contains adult themes and mild sexual references that may be unsuitable for young listeners. Parental discretion is advised. The other night, I was just hanging around the house like I always do. You see, I am what they call a homebody. I am also a creature of habit. So, when I do go out, there are only a few places that I go on a regular basis. You know, work, 5 days a week, the only grocery store in town, once a week, that creepy little gas station on the edge of town, when I need gas, and occasionally, I'll go to the tree farm, the bookstore, or the zoo. Well, that night, there wasn't anything good on TV, the laundry was done, the house was clean, and I had gotten bored watching the same old reruns. I mean, how many times can you watch the same episode of Friends, that you've seen a million times, before it gets old? No, don't get me wrong, I love Friends. Ross is my favorite. I have all 10 seasons on DVD. Anyway, there I was, in my house, fully dressed, with no one to stop me from doing whatever I wanted to do, and completely bored out of my mind. After about 20 minutes of contemplating, I decided to get out of the house for a while, and just go for a drive. Now, I don't know if it was the boredom, or the fact that I was tired of the repetitious lifestyle that I created for myself. But, I was feeling a little adventurous. You know, like breaking the chains, and going out of my comfort zone, and that is exactly what I did. I grabbed my wallet, my keys, my Best of Rat CD, and headed to the car. It was 8:45 p.m. I got in, started her up, put the CD in the player, turned the headlights on, got to the end of the driveway, and made a left. You see, if I would have made a right, I would have been heading into town, and toward the only places I ever go. But, I made a left, heading in a direction I had never been before. I made various left and right turns, onto various unknown backroads, completely lost, and loving it. I was facing my fears. As Lay It Down began to play, I made a right-hand turn, and immediately was hit with a huge blanket of fog. I couldn't even see the hood of my car, let alone the road. I slowed down to almost a crawl, praying that I stayed on the road, and didn't go into a ditch. After about 10 minutes, the fog lifted, the nighttime sky became clear again, and I could easily see the road. I drove down that road for quite some time, when I began to see lights off in the distance. Not headlights, not a stoplight, but building lights, in the middle of nowhere. As I drew closer, I discovered it was a motel. An old abandoned-looking 2-story motel. The place looked like no one had been there for years. As the lights shined down from above, I could see the paint had began to chip away, several shutters had fallen off, or were hanging by a thread, part of the gutter was hanging down blocking the upstairs walkway, and part of the roof was missing. It reminded me of the Cletus T. Judd parody of Hotel California. If you don't know who Cletus T. Judd is, look him up. He's basically a country version of Weird Al, just not as popular. Anyway, if this place is abandoned, then who turned on the lights, I thought. The neon sign out front was supposed to read, Angels Run Motel, but the words, Angels, and Motel were blown out, only showing the word, Run. I should have taken the hint, but I was a man on a mission. To boldly go where this man has never gone before. Yeah. Sorry about that weak reference. I'm a huge Star Trek fan. Captain Kirk is the best, but Picard is a close second. Anyway, what better way to go out of your comfort zone than to spend the night in a creepy, rundown, abandoned motel, in the middle of nowhere, that you had no idea even existed, right? So, I pulled into the parking lot. The parking lot was riddled with potholes, you couldn't help but hit a few. Jesus Christ. I yelled, as I hit one right after the other, and felt my car bottom out every time. I was flung around like I was on a damn roller coaster for God's sake. I did notice that there were actually a few cars there. A big red truck, a beige minivan, and a rusty old Ford Pinto. Okay, well, at least I'm not the only one here, I thought. I parked my car right in front of the flickering office sign. Well, the I, the C, and the E were blown out as well, only showing the word off, another hint I should have taken. I put the car in park, turned it off, and got out. I stood there with the driver's side door wide open, and looked around. There was nothing for as far as the eye could see. No houses. No cars driving by on the road. Nothing. Just wide open fields. The full moon shined down from above. I could have sworn it was only a half moon when I left my house. I was quite uncomfortable being there. But that was what being there was all about. Breaking the chains. Remember? That's a great song by Dokken. It's off their first album. But you don't really care about that, do you? Now, as you may have already figured out, I am an old 80s metalhead, who listens to a lot of music, and watches a lot of TV and movies. I mean, I don't really go anywhere, so what else is there to do, right? Anyway, as I stood there, the wind began to pick up, not hard, but just enough to let you know it was there. I then heard several coyotes howl in the distance. There are no coyotes in Delaware. What the hell is going on here? I thought. I almost got back in my car, and drove away. But I didn't. Hell, you only live once, right? I said to myself, as I stepped to the side, and closed the door. I then walked up to the office door, and opened it. The top of the door hit a little chime bell, scaring the shit out of me. I walked in, then shut the door behind me, hitting the bell once again. Now, remember when I said the exterior of the motel was worn and falling apart? Well, the office was the total opposite. It was immaculately clean, well organized, and smelled like warm apple pie. There was a blood-red couch, accented in black on the left, an old cigarette vending machine on the right, a long counter in front of me, with an old push-button cash register on top of it and to the right as you look at it. A little bell sitting next to the register, and a doorway on the far wall, with one of those little beady doorway hanging things from the 70s, hanging from it, red Victorian-styled carpet on the floor, a large white paneled ceiling, as well as red Victorian-styled wallpaper on the walls. To be honest, it looked like an old 70s whorehouse in there. Anyway, I walked up to the counter, dinged the bell, and cautiously said, "Hello." "Hello?" A few seconds went by, then a very sexy, seductive-looking woman, that would make Elvira look like Mother Teresa, stepped into the doorway. She gently pushed the beads back, and did a bouncy strut into the room, and up to the counter. She wore a short black leather miniskirt, with legs that looked like she went to the gym every single day. She wore a low-cut tiger-printed V-neck shirt, that exposed a good portion of her, well, endowment. She had fire-engine red hair, dreamy blue eyes, and pouty lips. Being an old 80s metalhead, I was completely speechless. "Hello," she said seductively, "my name is Tamara. How may I help you?" Then pouted out her lip. With one look at her, I lost all composure. I tried to get the words out. I really did, but I must have sounded like a love-struck 13-year-old. I need a room," I stuttered out. "Please, pick any room you like," she said, in the same seductive voice. I was melting inside, completely forgetting about where I was actually at. Now, the number 8 has been my lucky number, ever since I was a kid, so I went with that. I'll take number 8. I stuttered out again. "Very good," she said, reaching for the 8 key, taking it off the hook, placing it on the counter, and slowly sliding it toward me. I put my hand on the key, she put her hand on top of mine, and said flirtatiously, looking me straight in the eye, "If you need anything, I am always available for service." That's it, stick a fork in me. I was done at that point. I just stood there, practically drooling on myself. "Thank you," I tried to say, but I couldn't get my tongue to work. What came out was, yeah. She removed her hand, smiled, and did a little jiggle. I then took the key, walked to the door, looked back, and she was gone. Vanished into thin air. I didn't hear her walk back. I didn't hear the sound of the beads when she walked through the door. Hell, they're not even moving. Where did she go? I thought, snapping myself back to reality. I just shook my head. I opened the door, hitting that chime bell, and scaring the shit out of myself again. I walked out and shut the door, finally realizing, she didn't charge me for the room. Oh well, I thought. Now, I have been to many different hotels or motels in my life, and I'm sure you have as well. But have you ever seen one, where the rooms were not labeled numerically? You know, room 1, then 2, then 3, and so on. Well, not this motel. No. The numbers were all over the place. After shutting the door, I turned left and began walking down the walkway, looking for my room number. The first room was 15. The second room was 3. The third room was 27. What the fuck? There aren't even 27 rooms in this damn place, I thought. I walked down the whole downstairs walkway. There were no lights on in any of the rooms. I got to the end. No room number 8. I walked up the outside staircase, and saw an old weathered white sign, that had room 8, with an arrow pointing up, written in blue on it. The arrow was pointing down a long dark hallway. Apparently, the overhead lights blew out as well. That's odd, I thought. I pulled my phone out of my pocket, turned the flashlight on, shined it forward, and began walking down the hall. The coyotes began howling again. I quickened my pace, reached the door, tried to put the key in the hole, with shaking hands, finally got it, turned the knob, opened the door, and hurried inside, flipping the light switch. The overhead light then came on. The room was immaculately clean as well. The bed, which was queen size by the way, was made perfectly. The carpet was clean. The bathroom smelled like fresh linens, and the whole room smelled like warm apple pie as well. I was impressed, and I don't impress easily. The window was covered in Victorian-styled curtains. There was a small round sitting table, with 2 chairs to the left, a notepad, with the name of the motel on the top of it, and a pen, again with the motel name. It was a nice pen. I picked it up, and put it in my back pocket. Anyway, there was also an empty drinking glass, and a small square ashtray, sitting on top of the table. The bed had 2 Hershey Kisses on the 2 top pillows, with 2 identical nightstands on either side, with a white rotary phone on the one on the left, as well as a TV remote, and a beautiful Victorian-styled comforter covering it. Further up to the left, a laminated sheet of paper was taped to the wall, above the phone, with 911, and various extension numbers on it. The front desk extension was highlighted. Anyway, to the right, sat a small entertainment center, with a 32-inch flat-screen TV, and a DVD player hooked up to it. A small dresser sat to the left of it, with a little K-cup machine, a box of Maxwell House Original Blend K-cups, little packs of sugar, and powdered creamer in a styrofoam cup, a motel coffee mug, and a plastic spoon, sitting on it, and a small mini fridge to the left of that. The bathroom was to the left, just past the bed, with a sink, tub shower combo, and a toilet. Clean white towels and washcloths sat neatly on top of the toilet seat. Wow, this is nice, I thought. I made a K-cup of coffee, added cream and sugar, then sat down on the bed, putting the cup on the nightstand, on a motel coaster, and turned on the TV. I grabbed the cup, took a sip, and the TV came on with a snowy screen. After a few seconds, I took a full drink, and immediately spit it out, all over me, and the floor. Why, you ask? Well, the image that appeared on the TV screen, as the snow faded, was not some stupid rerun. No, it was an image of me sitting on the bed, coffee cup in hand. I raised my arm, and the image on the screen did too. I extended my leg, and the image on the screen did too. I then frantically began looking around for a camera. I didn't see one, but there had to be one somewhere. Suddenly, I felt movement under the comforter, lots of it. I stood up and pulled the comforter back, to see a whole swarm of cockroaches, scurrying on the bed, the walls, the table, everywhere. They were falling from the ceiling, directly on top of me. I closed my eyes, and screamed, swatting them away. I opened my eyes once again, and they were gone, and the TV was showing some old rerun of Gunsmoke. What the fuck? I said aloud, you know what? Fuck this place. I'm out. I turned to reach for the knob, when there was a knock on the door. I pulled back the curtain, looked out the window, to see a little girl with blonde hair standing there crying. Help, the little girl said. I released the curtain, and opened the door. The hallway's overhead lights were on now. She wore a tattered white dress, and was missing a shoe. I can't find my mommy, she said, with tears in her eyes. For some reason, I turned my head to look back into the room. I turned back to look at the little girl, and she had no face, no eyes, no nose, no mouth, nothing. Nothing but a flat piece of skin where her face should have been. I took a step back, nearly shitting myself. The overhead lights, in the hallway and the room, both began to flicker in random patterns. The coyotes seemed to be getting closer. I screamed, and pushed past the little faceless girl. If I can even call it that. Anyway, as I pushed it out of the way, it exploded into a cloud of gray smoke. I screamed again, turned right, and headed for the stairs. I was just about at the end of the hallway, when Tamara stepped out of the shadows. I stopped dead in my tracks. Her stunning beauty was not going to affect me this time. What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is this place? Who the fuck are you? I screamed at her. Now, don't be so dramatic. You're acting like a scared little schoolgirl, she said. Her sexy seductive voice was gone, and had been replaced with a deep, dark, and menacing one. I was just coming up to check on you, she said, in an innocent tone. Bullshit. I screamed, now, let me the fuck out of here. She then laughed. You cannot leave without paying your debt, she said menacingly. What debt? You crazy bitch, I yelled. She laughed again. I gave you your room for free. Therefore, you owe me, she said. I don't owe you shit. That's your fucking problem. I yelled back at her. Now, I am not a small man by any means. I've put on some pounds over the years. I knew that if I charged at her, I could easily knock her out of the way, and that is what I attempted to do. If you noticed, I said attempted. Anyway, I primal screamed, and ran as fast as I could towards her. I dropped my shoulder, and prepared to plow right over her. She stepped back, and screamed out, "No." I heard that word, and attempted to stop myself. But it was too late. From around the corner, came this massive beast of a man, dressed in all black, with a black ski mask on. He tackled me to the ground. My head then hit the concrete with a loud thud. I began to see stars, then felt a sharp stabbing pain on the side of my neck. My body went limp, and then everything went black. I woke up, in a pitch-black room, tied down, spread eagle, on a hard, cold concrete slab somewhere. My hands and my feet were shackled to the floor, by what appeared to be, well, shackles, duh. Anyway, my head however, was not strapped down. I could lift it, lower it, and move it from side to side. Oh, I almost forgot one very important detail. Now brace yourself. I was completely naked, with all that God gave me, completely exposed. Help, help, somebody, anybody, help, I screamed. Suddenly, the room began to illuminate, as flames rose up, from what I can only assume were torches mounted to the walls. And there she stood. Tamara, the psycho-sexy office chick, this time wearing a long black robe. "What do you want from me?" I screamed. "I want what is owed to me," she said, in the same menacing tone. "I gave something to you. Now, you must give something to me. I want your blood. It has been many, many years since I have feasted on the blood of a human." The flames then drew higher, revealing various men and women, sitting on couches and chairs, resembling the ones in the office. They were all dressed in black, white, and red, in various fashions, and had very pale white skin. They all then began to applaud. "It's showtime," she said. "I'll pay for the room, just let me go," I yelled. "Oh, it is far too late for that. Besides, what kind of show would that be?" she said. "Show?" I questioned. "Oh, yes. It's always a show when I turn a human. Turn into what?" I asked nervously. She then smiled, but it wasn't a normal smile. No. The side of her mouth extended upward, almost to her ears, revealing two enormous fangs. Her tongue then rolled out of her mouth. That thing would have made Gene Simmons jealous. The applause grew louder, as her face morphed back. Wait, I screamed, "You're a vampire." "No, you foolish human, I am a vampiress." "Now silence," she yelled. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. She then seductively removed the robe, leaving nothing to the imagination. I watched as she crouched down, slowly placing her left hand on my left thigh, then her right hand on my right thigh. She licked her lips, and then began to seductively crawl up my naked body. Parts of her upper anatomy gently rubbing against my skin, and certain parts of my body. Yeah, there. Now, under different circumstances, I would have been the happiest man in the world. But not then. Inch by inch, she crawled, until we were face to face. She looked me dead straight in the eye, and whispered, "You're welcome," as she quickly sunk her fangs deep into the left side of my neck, collapsing her body onto mine. The pain was immense, but her body felt warm. I closed my eyes. When I opened them again, I was sitting in my car, engine running, fully dressed, in the road, in the middle of nowhere. There was no motel anywhere in sight, just pure darkness. Lay It Down was still playing. I turned the radio off, and just sat there for a few seconds. What the fuck just happened? I thought. It had to be a dream. Yeah, that's what it was. A dream. There was never a motel, there was never a Tamara, and she never bit me. I said to myself. I quickly turned on the interior light, and positioned my head so I could see the right side of my neck in the rearview mirror. No bite marks. I said out loud, rubbing my neck, "No fucking bite marks." I was ecstatic. I turned the radio back on, rolled down the windows, and blasted that sucker all the way home, with the help of Google Maps that is. I pulled into the driveway, shut the car off, and went inside. I looked at the clock on the microwave. It was 9:33 p.m. Only 48 minutes had gone by. How the hell is that possible? I thought, and just blew it off. I decided that I had enough of going out of my comfort zone for a while. I wanted to get a hot shower, watch some reruns, and then go to bed. After all, I had to work in the morning. So, I went to my dresser, grabbed a pair of underwear and socks, a pair of sleepy pants and a t-shirt, then proceeded to the bathroom. I turned the shower on, letting the water heat up before I got in. I then took my wallet out of my back pocket, my phone and keys out of my front pockets, and set them on the sink. I then took off my pants, letting them fall to the floor. As they hit the floor, I heard a soft thud. I stepped out of the pants, and picked them up. I searched the two front pockets. Nothing. I checked the pocket that my wallet goes in. Nothing there either. I checked the last pocket, and felt something inside. I grabbed a hold of it, and pulled it out. It was the pen I took from the Angels Run motel. I just stood there, staring at the pen, completely shell-shocked. If it was all a dream, then how the hell do I still have this? I thought, and laid it on the sink with my other things. I finished getting undressed, and stepped in the shower. I stood there, letting the hot water pour onto the tense muscles of my shoulders and back. It felt so good. I got out of the shower, dried off, and got dressed in my night clothes. I then walked into my bedroom, grabbed the remote, and turned on the TV. And just my luck, they were playing a rerun of the 1985 comedy horror movie Once Bitten, starring Jim Carrey. That was before he got famous and all. Anyway, the left side of my neck then began to itch. I began to scratch it with my left hand, and felt 2 little bumps on my neck. I brought my hand back, and looked at it. There was blood on my fingertips. Wait a minute. There were no bite marks on my neck when I looked in the rearview mirror. What the fuck? Oh no. I looked at the wrong side of my neck. She didn't bite me on the right side. She bit me on the left side. Fucking dumbass, I said to myself. My eyes then inadvertently began staring at the blood on my fingers. My heart began to race, my breathing grew heavy, as I quickly stuck my fingers deep into my mouth, and frantically sucked the blood off of them. And it tasted wonderful. Oh well, I thought, if I am a vampire, at least I work at a blood bank. Oh shit, I gotta switch to the night shift.